Okay. Well, y'all, we're back. Cooking with Chief, serving up history. Getting calls from around the country, emails, letters asking us when we were going to come back on air again. We decided instead of doing a radio show to do it another way. We coming at you with recordings, interviews, in person with a lot of the leaders. I have with me today a super dynamic piece of history sitting here. I don't even know where to start. When you're sitting by this much history, it take you to another level. First, before I even introduce my guest today, I want to say Cooking with Chief, serving up history wouldn't even be out there telling you about civil rights or Indian rights if I hadn't been around some dynamic people. And my guest today is an honor to have for my first show coming back after COVID and everything. And it's my first appearance on a recording since 2019. So it's an honor to be here. And I would like to introduce my guest, which he know how I feel about him. I don't even need to go there, but I want you all to know. My guests I have today have honored me around the country, treated me like a queen before I was a queen or a chief. So there's no need me hesitating on introducing this great man. His name is Spiver Gordon. By way of Louisiana, he ended up relocating to Alabama on us. But this here is a Louisiana boy. And that's what makes it such an honor. But the greatest honor, we're talking about foot soldiers. Terminologies people don't know nothing about today. What is a foot soldier? And you know, I want to ask him some questions because what we see out there with the radical marching and protesting and fighting and burning stuff down, this man is a super march coordinator. This is where I learned how to march. This is where I bought my first bullhorn and told Slidell up with it. You know, I got it from this man. You need to be heard, and that bullhorn made him heard. I look back and say, you know, I was in my 20s when I was out there marching, and this man came to my rescue, and this is not his first time in Slidell. Him and Reverend Orange would come at a drop of a hat. Reverend Alexander and I would call them, and the next thing we know, they would be in Louisiana. Some of the roads being paved. This man know when we had dusty roads, sewage ditch, no water. It was everything. And I called on them. And I remember people telling me back then it wasn't a movement for women. It was a man's movement. And I'm like, well, I'm down here fighting, and I don't care if it's a man or a woman come help me. And if I'm fighting, you know, they shouldn't care if I'm a man or a woman. Well, I want to tell y'all, my time in SCLC, from the beginning to now, have been nothing but love and respect. As Spiver know, we call each other family. We family. And when family need family, we call one another, we supposed to be there. And he called me and told me he was going to be in town. And you know good and well I wasn't finna miss that spot. SCLC taught us how to take whatever we got and work with it. And I know we didn't sit in hotel lobbies at night waiting to get checked in when numbers was coming in. But the part I like about SCLC, we might have been on the front line, but a lot of people don't know what all it take.
Right.
On that backside and the pain and you know, I keep thinking of names I'll talk about later, but I want to start this show off with asking him what he feel about when you see marching and protesting today, Spiver, based on what y'all taught us. Because, you know, the audience may not know this, but we had workshops where you would have Spiver and James Orange and Dick Gregory and, you know, where they taught us how to hit them streets. What do you think as a foot soldier?
Well, first let me say I'm so delighted to be here and to share with you. And you make me so humble with all of those praising words. The movement, as you know, is a struggle for change. And when I see people in the streets, I get excited. And I wish there was more people involved and making change and standing up for what needs to be said and what needs to be done. There's not enough going on right now. There's so many issues that we need to be dealing with, and I think it's important that we got to keep on marching. We got to keep on standing up and doing what needs to be done.
Well, you can look at me. I came to the movement. I might have had my heritage, but I ain't know nothing about marching, protest, what was going on. And you know, I wonder sometimes, I tell people I have to live up to that shoulder of all y'all's. I stand on a lot of giant shoulders. And I left one of your little titles out. We both serve on the board of SCLC, but when I got on the board of SCLC, when I came to SCLC, Spiver was there. And I see today, Spiver, some things missing though, because when I came in, y'all was talking nonviolent. Now when I look, I'm excited to see them organizing, but I see too much violence. And I remember when y'all taught us, you know, sing a song, look in the other direction, you know, but don't participate with the crime of breaking windows and shouting back negative towards your the audience. You know, Spivey, when I say foot soldier, what come to mind to you?
Well, with respect to violence, let me say that I'm excited about the young people and
See,
Black Lives Matters and all of that. Of course, nonviolence is clearly the way we got to go. And I understand that there are people who are violent, and perhaps they ought not be involved in out there in front because it sends the wrong message. We got enough violence in this country already with guns and shooting and killing, and I mean it's very disappointing to see our movement move that way because we took a lot of abuse back in the day when with nonviolence, being kicked, pushed, putting hot cigarettes to us, blowing smoke in our face, slapping us, all kinds of things. And I think that is the way, because we have to continue to send the message of love and respect. If we want respect, we got to show respect. And when violence gets involved, it sends another message. Violence begets violence. And I think we have to remember that Dr. King was all about love, sharing, giving, and standing up. And sometimes I think some of the people who are involved don't have a history of what nonviolence is and don't have an understanding of how important it is that we be nonviolent and that we continue to be aggressive, stand up, and submit our bodies to whatever may come. I mean, we got to show love. During these times of shooting and guns and killing, we got to turn to each other,
and not on each
not
other.
on each other.
And that's what I liked about SCLC, the slogans. When you say that word right there, turn to each other, I'm going to think Dr. Lowry.
Yeah.
Our leader, it comes from the leadership. Our leader spoke to us of nonviolence and turning to each other and not on each other. You served under Dr. Lowry. You were there with Abernathy. You go all the way back. I'm going to shut up a little minute, but I want you to tell us, how did you get into the movement? What brought Spiver Garden from Louisiana, Plaquemine Parish, into the movement? Let me hear it.
Well, it started actually in Plaquemine. There's a minister by the name of Major Jones, come from a very little small community up in Iberville Parish. Major was a student at Southern University, and he decided to take a position and at the state capitol. He went in by himself and sat in, and I was watching that, and I said, "Now, that's my homeboy, and if he can do that, I need to get involved as well." And of course, right after that, I was drafted to go into the military. So I didn't get a chance to get involved in 1960 because I was in Germany. But I got involved in Germany, led a protest in Germany. There were places that we were not allowed to go. Black soldiers were not allowed to go in the German clubs. And so I organized the brothers, and we got together, and we said, we're going to put this one off limits. And we protested, and it was put off limits. And then after I got out of the army, I came home. I'm still in the military and I got to serve that part of that Army thing is that you got to continue to serve in reserve. Well, I was going to reserve meetings and I was talking to people about what was going on, and in Plaquemine, Dr. Harlow and others were saying, well, we need you to get more involved here and help us organize because something need to happen in Plaquemine. Well, I'm in the military uniform, and I just decided that I wasn't going to be in the military anymore. So I led a demonstration in downtown Baton Rouge in uniform. I was arrested, and my captain came there and said, don't you know that you can't do that in uniform? I said, well, I've decided that I'm not going to be violent anymore. I'm not going to be any soldier anymore. I'm a nonviolent soldier now, and I'm going to join the Congress of Racial Equality, and I'm going to work with them and change it. Well, they said, well, now, we got a place for people that don't conform to military program. I said, well, what is that? He said, well, first of all, we're going to take all your stripes. And they did. I said, well, maybe you'll just cut the sleeve off as well because I'm finished with the military. They said, well, we're going to send you, they called me in and said, we'll give you another chance. If you decide that you want to go on and finish the military thing, we won't bother you. I said, well, as I've said, I'm finished with that. Well, they sent me to, they called me back in the Army and sent me to Fort Polk up in Leesville, Louisiana.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm back now in active duty. And I said to them, well, I'm not going to carry any gun. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm not, I ain't going to burn my draft card or nothing like that, but I'm not going to do any fighting. I ain't going to do anything. So I'm at there now, and I'm looking at Fort Polk and how racist things are. Terrible. So I said, now, I got to do something about this. So I organized at Fort Polk, organized all of the black and the
In your uniforms again.
in uniform soldiers, and I said, we're going downtown and we're going to open up Leesville. It's going to be open, and we did. We went down and we demonstrated and turned it upside down, and shortly after that, I got this letter said, you got an honorable discharge. You're no longer in the Army.
Wait a minute.
And that was the end of that military thing.
You're telling me not one time but 2 times.
Yeah.
You protest in the United States uniform, and they took the strip you, and you still didn't care. They gave you the second chance without you asking for it, but you still, in your heart, knew this is your life, and you chose this. Can I say it this way? You chose to be in the Army, because I know you. You chose to be in God's Army, a peaceful Army. I think you made a good choice because your life, by you making those choices, helped people like me understand what the movement is really about. And that's why I wanted to talk to you, because people looking for this supernatural, extraordinary person. And I hear you say you was just a regular old soldier that God allowed to do some
That's
extraordinary things. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Because the movement, I was listening to Andy Young, which is my cousin, from right there in Lacombe, his dad. I was listening to an interview with him the other night, and he said, I remember when there was 20 of us out there. 20. And he was talking about Selma, Alabama. And he said, I remember when 20 of us was out there, and nobody else wanted to come. And then he began to talk about Reverend James Bevel. And even today, when I hear y'all stories, it makes me stop. And I'm sure the ones that's sitting here, y'all done learned something already, huh? That's the part of the movement. And I tell you this all the time. SCLC had this charisma, this mind capturing thing not a brainwash. They empowered their people. Y'all used to make me feel so powerful. I would come back to St. Tammany and fight all the Ku Klux Klans, you know that. And I remember Osborne say, I get letters from Slidell to pull your coat. And they never knew. The more they did that, the more y'all told me, go farther, and gave me some more rope. But that came from your experience. And you knew that there was always somebody there to try to stop you. With this younger generation, there is some things that's missing. And that is knowing the little trainings like y'all gave on nonviolence. I go back and I think about, I went to Epps, Alabama, out by the point. And out there, y'all used to hold these late night meetings, telling us about what y'all did and what to expect. A lot of times I had never experienced what you told me, but it wouldn't be too many months or a year later, I would run into that. And by you all teaching us that, I learned how to deal with it. When they tell me they was going to arrest me, well, I went and found some of my friends and made sure they had enough to get my bond to get me out. Or I would call Reverend Alexander. And he'd be right there with me. We going to jail together, he said. Just like right now, they out there fighting about gas pricing. I remember this fight. I called you one night. I say, Spiver, Reverend Alexander going to jail. And you was like, going to jail? Yep, we've been protesting the price hike on gas. And I remember you say, I'll be there. No question asked, because that love there, that unity there. But we couldn't get Rev to eat. He wouldn't come out, and the best we could do is get him that red comforter he was wrapped up in on the news. But people really didn't understand. He wasn't joking. He was not going to eat and leave that jail cell without attention on it. And I remember you as a leader saying, I'm on my way, and you came with a Bible and a toothbrush.
That's right.
And
in fact, that was my last arrest in Louisiana.
And that's what I want y'all to know. I called him here, and he got arrested for me. Yeah. Reverend Alexander wouldn't let me go to jail. He told me, you can't go to jail.
Well, we had to keep some people out. But let me tell you what happened after I was released. I went back to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And I said, now, if folk are doing that in Louisiana, we need to do this in Tuscaloosa. My neighbor is 94 years old. I said to her and Wanda Parrish, I said, we got to go to jail in Tuscaloosa. He said, man, those Negroes in Tuscaloosa not going to come out. I said, we're going to Tuscaloosa. Ms. Maggie Lockett, 96, 94 years old. She said, I'm with you. 5 of us got our signs, went in front of the biggest Standard Oil station and protested. It was hot out there, and I was really afraid that Ms. Lockett, I said, Ms. Lockett, are you all right? She said, I'm going to be here as long as you are. She started singing, ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, and that just fed me up.
Oh yeah, that would get you every time.
Yeah, so we started getting the attention of everybody, the 5 of us. 5, 10, 15, 20, we got up to 50 people in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, saying we got to do something about these gas prices. But it was because of that energy from Mrs. Lockett.
Yeah. And
recognizing that we had to keep on fighting. You mentioned something earlier that caught my attention about what Andy said about there were only 20 of us. Well, when I look at the movement now, there are very few of us.
Mm-hmm.
I look at pictures of James Orange and all of those soldiers, and I'm standing there by myself. In Alabama, in the Black Belt where I am, I'm the only one.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so few of us now, and so therefore we have to keep on organizing and keep on doing, and I'm doing that with young people.
See, a lot of people don't understand we networked. Networking is important, and that's why we are family. When you was talking about when she was singing that song. It's something about them freedom songs. And you was one of the main one on that bullhorn kicking us off. And I'm gonna tell you, it hits once it hits your spirit in that song, it's like, where we going? I remember we was marching from we came out of Selma, we went over that Pelham Bridge, and then we was gonna continue on over into Montgomery. And I ain't gonna lie, I was tired. And I had just had my baby, she was with us, and we made it over the bridge. Well, we went up and down and prayed a couple times that first day. And I was like, boy, this is going to be hard, and I just had this baby. And I remember Congressman Fontroy. He say, you making the journey, sister? And I'm like, no, I'm going back home. And every time we go up and pray, he kept on, you making that journey with us, sister? I'm like, no, I just had the baby. And so the next time he asked me, he say, you making the journey with us, sister? I said, but I got the baby. He said, how many arms do they have out here? And I looked. And that was the year that people was going underneath the bridge, showing us their naked butt under the Edmund Pettus Bridge.
Yeah.
You remember that? Yeah. And he says, well, we'll take turn toting this baby. I think my baby at that time peed on Congressman Fontroy about 10 times on his round of toting. But it's something about when we got in that dead zone, and it wasn't nothing, and it wasn't no people on the side. It was just marches. I can remember Ralph and Frederick and Reverend Fred Taylor still with us. That's walking history right
he's
there.
Still marching.
And he's still with us, still marching. And I remember the spirit of just when the numbers got slack and we was in nowhere, it was still the same. But what was also better is those nights, people don't understand, the nights when we had them night rallies along the way. When the little old lady who couldn't do nothing but fry some chicken and bring it to the church to make sure we eat or whatever they brought, all that counts in a movement. It's not who on the front line only, it's who opened the door for the rallies that night.
If you remember, you talk about night rally, they put Wendell Parrish in jail in Sumter County because we was marching about Mrs. Maggie Bozeman and Julia Wilder. You remember those two courageous black women who were arrested for vote fraud, and Wendell said, "Look, we got to do something about this. Here are our mothers, our grandmothers, are being put in jail for voting," and he said, "I'm gonna go the first night, and I'm just gonna go through the courthouse singing. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around." Went in the courthouse, they put him in jail. And so I said, okay, Wendell, we'll be there. So we got a busload of our folk from Greene County to go to Sumter County, which is an adjoining county, and at night. And we hadn't had too many night marches. You know, Jose was the night marching man up in Savannah. You know, we marched there. So I said, nah, I know y'all haven't done it before. Talking about training, we met with the folk before we got there on the bus. We were singing, and I told them we're gonna march at night, and that's kind of scary because you don't know where the Kooks are, where the Klang are, and where the white folk are. But they're gonna be as frightened as we are because this had never been done in this part of Alabama. So we got to the bus, got off the bus, and Wendell was out the window looking. I said, Wendell, you'll be out here in a little while because we're going to sing you all night. The sheriff was there and all the police was all around. And we just started singing and walking. And I said, Sheriff, you need to open up the courthouse because these women need to use the restroom unless you want us to do it right on the street. And we're camping here for the night until you let him out of jail. We went around the courthouse. I said, now we're going to do it 7 times because there's something about 7 times going around the courthouse. I said, that door going to come open if we sing loud enough and continue. We marched and we sung, and we marched and we sung, we marched. We did it more than 7 times, like about 10 times. and the sheriff said, y'all disturbing the peace. Y'all waking up people. Folk want to sleep. It's about 10:30, 11 o'clock now. I said, we're going to sing all night. And we were singing every freedom song there was. And white people were on just looking at us and wondering what was going on. We were singing in March, and I heard some lady say, "Well, let him out, let him out." I said, "Oh, he can say, Willis, I'm all right. I'm comfortable. I got my toothbrush. That's all I need. I'm comfortable." We started singing again. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. The sheriff said, come on out of there. Come on out of there.
See that?
Let him out of jail.
See, that's what
Because
I'm telling you,
because we
agitation.
stood up.
Y'all agitated with the word. You're
Yeah.
agitated with the stuff. You know, people tell me I was accused of being agitated. You know that. They used to stay calling SCLC to get rid of me down here. But without agitation, I tell people you don't have a good washing machine. You know, if you put your clothes in the washer, you intend for it to be agitated so it can get clean. What you don't lose in the wash, it come out in the rinse. And I learned that from y'all. Don't stop. And if it's only you or two, just get started. Because when we did the gas thing, when I called you and told you Reb wouldn't let me go to jail, and he went, I think it was me, Reb, Pat, Brian, Percy, could have been about 20, 25 of us. And here we didn't take on one town. We didn't pick with one town. We stopped here, we protested, and we just kept going. It just happened to be when he got to that end, they decided, well, we're going to lock him up. But they didn't want to lock us up. Pat, Brian, anybody wanted to go, they didn't want us. They wanted Reb. But you know, I tell people, God take things like that and use it for the better, because when if they would have locked me up, the world wouldn't have known about it. But they locked
You
Reverend
mentioned Reverend Alexander. I was disappointed today. I didn't know about AP Turo Memorial, and I walked around there looking at the names, and I saw Aretha Castle. I said, "Good, that's great." And I saw A.L. Davis. I said, "Fine." And I kept looking, and I couldn't find Reverend Avery Alexander's name.
because he was an agitator.
And I said to my friend, "Now, something is wrong. Reverend Avery Alexander his name needs to be here, because here's a leader who was a political leader, which is unusual,
A minister.
a minister, and didn't mind going to jail, didn't mind demonstrating, not only in Louisiana, but in Mississippi, in Chicago, wherever there was a movement. Reverend Avery Alexander was there. These other ministers had done their thing, but he was continuously doing
Never
things.
stopped.
Up
Never
to
stopped.
probably
Till his
until
death.
he passed.
Till his death.
Remember when they drug him down that
yes.
step? I don't know how many people know about that.
I know that, but you know, I also look back, Spider, Reverend
I was
Alexander
scared
in his
for him
old days.
Yeah.
We was out there with David Duke. Remember we went and battled David Duke?
Yes, I remember.
And a lot of people don't know this happened, but there are people who still live and can remember this. But remember, David Duke was running for office, and
Yes.
I came up with here I go again. I then came up with the idea I'm gonna fight Duke, because you know he was strong over here in St. Tammany Parish and over in Metairie. So I called Reverend Alexander. I say, "Look, me and Percy fixing to get some signs printed up." He said, "What you gonna put on them?" I said, "I'm gonna put Duke is full of Dookie, and I'm gonna put KKK inside of his name." And he said, "Bring it to the office. Let me see what you scratching up on paper." So I spelled Duke, and I'll put 3 Ks in it. We got the bumper stickers made. Reverend Alexander said, "You didn't get enough printed." He said, "Go back and tell the print shop we want 2,000. So I said, "We have 2,000 people ain't gonna put this on their car." He said, "We want 2,000. So we ordered 2,000. A local printer company printed for me. In 2 days, the 2,000 was gone. This what people don't know. More white people asked for those signs than we could get a black person to put that sign on their car. They're like, "You crazy? I'm gonna put that car on my car and go down through town." Or we had white people saying, "Look, get me 5 of them signs. I got my children car, my mama car," and they were slapping these signs on their cars. New Orleans was slapping it on their car. So one evening I was coming back from New Orleans, coming across the bridge, and I saw this sign say Duke Country. Spiver, I was so hurt. I knew Duke was fighting me by doing that, because that was working on my nerves. So I called the radio station and I went on air. And I went to explaining to them about the racism in St. Tammany Parish and about Pearl River and all these type places. I said, "Now here this man gonna come in our town and stir up racism. We didn't have to live through this junk, church burnings and lynchings and all this." I said, "Now he gonna come stir this up again." See, I done been through what we going through this junk like right now with this racism. It just take one of them
Yeah.
to stir that pot. and that junk go to boiling over. But David Duke ran for office, and he was a Republican, he said. So I came home and, making signs and strategizing his SCLC main too. You got to mark a lot in the poster board or anything, a T-shirt, we'll make a sign. So I sit down at night and I'm like, we got to hit this hard. So I kept telling my husband when he come from work, I said, I'm not letting Duke put that sign out there calling this Duke country. He said, well, you saw that one, but they have another one when you come in off the interstate say Duke country. Boy, I jumped in my car at night and I went on down there. I saw that sign say Duke country. No. I called Reverend Alexander. I said, Rev, you know what I'm going to do tomorrow? He said, what? I said, I'm going on air. He said, where you going? I said, I'm going on the Redneck station. I got to go. I said, because they don't understand a hungry white baby and a hungry black baby is a hungry baby.
Right.
I said, they don't understand potholes in the white community and potholes in the black community still tear up everybody's front end of their car.
Yes.
I said, so I need to go on air. He said, well, do that. Just go do it. So I went on. I didn't know that David Duke was going to call in. The next 2 days we were protesting. I remember this, I know. We were protesting up there in Covington. And David Duke went on there and talked about us so bad he called us old buzzard and two crows. Or was it two crows and old buzzard? Two crows and old buzzard. So it was me and Thea Nett that used to travel with. Called us name on air. Boy, people was laughing. He said I had 12 children and I was fighting for my welfare and food stamp. I'm like, well, he ain't on the page with me because I don't have welfare, food stamp, nor 12 children. So I said, well, Duke, where's my 12 children? Excuse me, say, in the closet. I said, well, how many children you have? He wouldn't say. I said, let me tell you how many children I have. 12 was a minor number. Pull the citizenship of St. Tammany Parish. And all that's me and my husband's children. That's who we fighting for. Well, the next day I got a call from a white lady. They didn't even know who she was. She said, thank you. We don't want to be included with that racism junk that's going on. So this is what y'all do. Whatever y'all have to do, count us in. So we start getting, I said, what I need y'all to do is start calling your congressman. We ain't have, boy, we had internet spy, we'd been bad back in them days, huh?
That's right.
I'm like, call your congressman. So they start calling their congressman. Call the White House. Dr. Lowry, early one morning, called Reverend Alexander. And he said, hey, I need you to get that girl on that phone. You remember you used to call me Slid Dale. He said, need you get that girl Slid Dale on the phone. I don't know what y'all doing in Louisiana, but I just got a call from George Bush. We were like, whoa. And so Dr. Lowry said, all three of us going to be on conference in a few minutes. And the president going to come on. And he came on asking Dr. Lowry to tell Reverend Alexander to cease on us saying about the Republican Party. He didn't care about Duke. But I had to make another sign say pin the tail on the donkey, and I pinned it on the Republican Party. Hey, that's who he was. But I never would have thought that the President of the United States would have been called on me. So Dr. Lowry, you know how he was. He let the man tell us what, and Dr. Lowry said, well, I don't live in Louisiana. You need to talk to Avery. That's why I got him on there. So when he went to ask Reverend Alexander said, well, first of all, I live in Louisiana and I'm not stopping. He said, and I can't stop Miss Gillum because she don't listen. And I'm not going to try to make her listen. He said, she got to live in that. The president said, tell me what y'all want. And Dr. Lowry asked me and Reverend Alexander, and I said, I want him to denounce David Duke as part of the Republican Party. And Reverend Alexander said, that sound good. And Dr. Lowry said, that sound good. The president told Dr. Lowry, he said, I'll go on Good Morning America. See, what I'm telling y'all, you can go back and pull a recording. The president of the United States went on Good Morning America and denounced David Duke as being a part of the Republican Party. Where it started from a handful of people. You see what I'm saying? So what I want people to understand, Spivey, not only with you or with me, it never was a lot of numbers out there, but we'll take our little numbers from every state and pull them together.